Hello students, apologize for a low budget video, but today I'm just going to go over some of the common questions that I get over this worksheet. A lot of students have trouble with number 1, number 2, and 3 and 4. So number 1 and number 3 and number 2 and number 4 are almost exactly identical, so I'm just going to talk about number 1 and number 2 for right now. So let's look at what these questions ask. So the first question says, complete the chart by calculating the average magnitude of the electric field between each two consecutive locations by dividing the absolute value of the difference in magnitude of the voltage at each of the two locations by 0.5. I should have put this in parentheses. That is your displacement between the two locations. Then find their average value and record that in the last row. So this is going to be your major points. So you're going to have a data set that looks something like this. Now, you're going to actually have real numbers here. I just put numbers, but when you do your lab, you're going to record numbers. And then you should have numbers that look exactly like this. I believe in the lab they instruct you to go by 0.5. So if that's in your instructions, they should look like this. And you should have number 9 here. So essentially what they're asking you to do in this first part is find a displacement between two of these points, right? So they're going to ask you to do like number 1 minus number 2, 1 minus 0.5, and that's going to equal some percent, or that's going to equal some, it's not going to be a percent, but it's going to equal some number. I just used a percent sign because I already used a number sign down here. So to get your next one, you're going to do 2 minus 3. And if you notice, these are always going by 0.5, so you could automatically tell yourself you're going to divide by 0.5. That's what they're saying to do in your instructions right there. And then you could do and so on. Number 3 minus number 4 divided by 0.5, and that will go right here, whatever number that comes out to. So once you do that for each one, then you could just find your average. And find your average, everybody should know how to do that, right? So I believe we have 8 data points. Just double check and count yourself. But I believe there's going to be 8 data points here. So you're going to add all these 8 points up and then divide by 8, right? So if you had 9 data points, you would divide by 9. That's how you find your average. So that's how you do that's how you do your first calculation. Now remember, guys, you're going to have to write down all your calculations, but this should be straightforward. All these values on this side should be positive, right? Because there's absolute value signs here. And remember, even your negative numbers are going to become positive. So if you get to number 7, they're going to be positive here. So you're always going to be taking this number minus the next number. Getting down to number 2. Number 2, it's kind of lengthy in words. This to simplify, all they're asking you to do is find the average in a different way. And then after you find the average, they're asking you to compare it to your original average up here. So the first thing they're asking you to do is find your new average, which I have circled right here. So how do you do that? Is there you take your first point minus your last point. Then you're going to do your overall displacement again. You're going to do your 0.5 minus 4.5. That's where my 4 came from right here. Okay, so if you have different numbers, it might not be 4, but I believe in your lab it's going by 0.5. So that's all you're going to do, is you're going to take the overall displacement. This one's kind of going step by step, right? It's going in increments and saying take the average of this increments. This one's saying, hey, let's look at the big step. So they're just taking the difference from the first point to the last point. So it's taking that big increment. Then they're going to ask you to find what is called the percent difference. So the percent difference equation is A minus B divided by parentheses A plus B divided by 2. So make sure when you put this in your calculators that you use your parentheses. Now I'm going to give you guys a hint. These numbers this A, which is up here, whatever you calculate, and this B, which is right here, whatever you calculate, they should be extremely close to each other. Now, they might not be exactly the same, but they should be extremely close to each other. So your answer should be 0 or really, really close to 0. So if your answer is 0.1, then you're good. But if it's, if you get some big answer like 50% or 100%, you did something wrong. This should be really, really close to 0 or 0.1, 0.2, something like that. But you shouldn't get no big numbers. So again, your percent difference should almost be exactly the same, if not the same. So to keep that in mind, if these two numbers, your A and your B number, aren't close to each other, you did something wrong, so you're going to have to go back and look at what you did. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to send me an email. I hope that answered everything.